Welcome. Today, we're diving into something that's all around us, shaping pretty much everything we do, even when we don't notice it. We're going to tackle a big question. What is social science? And you know what? The answer actually starts with you.
So let me just ask you this straight up. Are you living a social science life? I know, that probably sounds a little weird. What does that even mean, right? But stick with me because I think you're about to discover that the answer is a big, fat yes.
Just think about your morning. You woke up in a house, which is part of a neighborhood, a community. Maybe you took a bus to get where you're going. That's a public transport system. You traveled on a road, which was probably built and paid for by the government. Maybe you're heading to school, which is a huge part of our education system. See what I mean? Before you've even had your coffee, you've been moving through a world that social science is designed to understand.
But, and this is important, just living in that world isn't what social science is all about. It's about taking that one crucial next step. It's about asking one simple but incredibly powerful question. Why? Because this is so much more than just a pile of facts. It's a whole different way of thinking.
This right here gets to the absolute heart of it. We don't just notice that people ride the bus. A social scientist asks, why do we even have public transportation? Who is it built for? How do we pay for it? And who benefits the most? It's all about digging for the reasons behind the world we all share.
Let's take a really big, complicated issue like poverty. It's so easy to just make assumptions on the surface, but social science forces us to dig deeper. We have to ask, is a person poor just because of a lack of money? Or is it because the good schools are too far away? Or because their family can't afford the uniforms and the books? Are there things that happened long ago, historical disadvantages that are still affecting their opportunities today? Do our government's policies actually help everyone out equally? It's about searching for the root causes, not just looking at the symptom. Okay, so if we're going to get all textbook about it for a second, here's the formal definition. Social science is the systemic study of us, of human society. It's about looking at that complex, tangled web that connects each of us as individuals to the much bigger world, including all those institutions and organizations that shape how we live.
And thinkers have been trying to pin this down for ages. One scholar, James High, talked about how physical and non-physical things work together. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Think about it. A physical thing, like a huge mountain range, can lead to non-physical things, like a culture of independence or a unique set of beliefs. And those things create our social relationships.
Charles Beard put it in a way that's maybe a little easier to grasp. He said, social science is all about human affairs. It's not about sticks, stones, or stars. So while other sciences are looking at the natural world, social science is focused completely on us, the choices we make, the communities we form, and the societies we build.
So, how in the world do we study something as huge and messy as human society? Well, I want you to think of social science as a kind of toolkit, or maybe like a set of different glasses or lenses that each help you see the world just a little more clearly.
Now, this toolkit usually has 4 main tools inside, especially when you learn about it in school. And each one of these is like a special lens that helps us ask that why question from a totally different angle. So let's open up the toolbox and see what's inside.
First up, we've got geography and history. Geography is all about the where. It looks at the planet we live on, the climate, the rivers, the resources, and asks, how does this physical stuff shape our lives? Why do people build cities here and not over there? Then you've got history. That's the how we got here story. It looks back in time to help us understand that the problems and identities we have today didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Nope, they have deep, deep roots in the past.
The other 2 big tools in our kit are political science and economics. Political science is about power. Who has it? Who makes the rules? How do our laws actually work? And what can we, as everyday citizens, do to have a say? And then there's economics. It's all about how we make a living. It looks at our resources, what things cost, not just in money but in social terms, and how things like poverty can put people in really tough situations.
Okay, but here is the most important part. These tools don't just sit in separate compartments in the toolbox. Real life is complicated, it's messy, and to get a real grip on any problem, you have to use all of these lenses together. Let me show you what I mean.
Okay, imagine a huge flood devastates a city. If you only use one tool, you'll miss the real story. First, you need geography to understand the physical side of it, the heavy rainfall, the way the rivers work. Then you need history to understand why people built the city in that specific, vulnerable spot in the first place. Next, you grab your economics lens to see the damage to people's jobs and calculate the staggering cost of rebuilding. And finally, you use political science to look at the government's response, or maybe its lack of planning. See? You need all four to get the full picture.
And that brings us to this absolutely critical point. Social sciences is not just a bunch of different subjects you have to memorize for a test. It's a connected, integrated way of thinking that helps us make sense of the real, complicated world we all live in.
So, why should you care? Why go through all the trouble of learning to think this way? Well, because it's not just some assignment for school. It's about learning how to be a better citizen, a more thoughtful, more informed, and more responsible member of society.
When you start thinking like a social scientist, you get these, well, they're almost like superpowers. You start to really understand and appreciate all the different kinds of people around you, but you also learn to spot serious challenges, like discrimination. You begin to see the undeniable link between what we do and what happens to our planet. You truly get why sustainability isn't just a buzzword, it's essential for our future. And maybe most importantly, you start to see exactly how decisions made by the government affect your daily life, which is the first step to becoming an active and responsible citizen.
And at its very core, this whole way of thinking, it's all guided by these huge foundational ideals that are supposed to hold our societies together. Ideas like justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. These aren't just fancy words on a piece of paper. They are the goals that a social science perspective pushes us to work toward in the real world.
So I want to leave you with a little challenge. Just look around you, your neighborhood, your town, your country. Using this new toolkit we've just talked about, what's one problem, it can be big or small, that you can now see with just a little more clarity? Think about it.